El multimillonario se RÍE de Esto Hasta su MUNDO se DESMORONA in 3 DEAS. MIRA AHORA. In the lavish heart of Manhattan, beneath the glimmering skyscrapers and luxurious boutiques, there lived a man who had everything money could buy. Gabriel Rains, the self-made billionaire, was a force of nature. His laughter echoed through marble halls, drawing in admirers like moths to a flame. But that night, a chill settled over the city, a whisper of impending doom lurking in the shadows. It all started with a single, foreboding email, containing nothing but an ominous countdown. 3 days. Underneath Gabriel's grandiose lifestyle lay secrets darker than the night itself. People spoke of strange occurrences, a mirror that reflected the past, a clock that ticked backwards, and whispers about his unyielding success, which many believed came at a cost. He brushed it all off. Just superstition. He'd smirk, his diamond-studded watch glinting, but even he couldn't shake the unease creeping into his heart. The day started like any other rushed meetings, laughter over expensive coffee, and plans for a charity gala that could change lives. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, an unsettling feeling clenched his gut like a steel vice. There was talk. Rumors flitted through the air like errant butterflies, telling of how Gabriel's enemies were gathering. Why would they? He was untouchable, wasn't he? Then, the strangest thing happened. During a lavish dinner, the lights flickered ominously, and glasses shattered without reason. A sudden silence swept over the table, broken only by the heavy thump of Gabriel's heart. Fear slithered through the air, and for the first time, he felt the weight of the eyes watching him, not with adoration, but with dread. As he made his way home, the streets twisted and warped in his mind. Shadows danced as if alive, and a chilling breeze whispered warnings he couldn't quite hear. It all seemed absurd, yet a gnawing sensation gnawed at his chest. 3 days until what? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the clock ticked down to midnight, Gabriel stood on the balcony, gazing into the abyss of the city's lights. A scream erupted from the darkness below, igniting his primal instincts. Panic rushed through him. What exactly was counting down? And why did it feel like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for his downfall? The chill of foreboding wormed its way into his soul as he braced for what would come next. Gabriel's heart raced as turbulence gripped him. The scream pierced the night, echoing in a chilling cacophony that twisted his gut. He leaned over the edge of the balcony, searching the streets below for the source of the terror, but the night seemed indifferent, shrouded in layers of darkness. With a shuddering breath, he pulled back, the cool air stinging his skin like ice. The countdown loomed in his mind, 24 hours down, 48 to go. What had started as a playful jest in his world of luxury now morphed into a palpable dread that wrapped around his chest. His phone buzzed violently on the glass table beside him. It was from Olivia, his assistant. "Gabriel, we need to talk. Now." Grimacing, he snatched the device, his heart heavy with urgency. After a series of finger taps, he hurried down the marble staircase, the opulence of his penthouse seemingly closing in on him, feeling less like a palace and more like a prison. When he reached the office, he found Olivia pacing, unease etched on her usually composed face. Her eyes mirrored his own swirling trepidation. "Gabriel," she started, voice trembling slightly, "there's been an incident at the gala. One of the donors deceased." "What do you mean, deceased?" His voice dropped, sharp with disbelief. "It's a gala. It's supposed to be a celebration. They found him in his car. They believe it was foul play. Someone left a message." A chill raced through him. Gabriel was accustomed to the shadows in his world, yet recklessness sparked like a match in a petrol-soaked room. What message? Just the countdown. It was written in blood on the windshield. His body went cold. All the superstitions that had once seemed so ludicrous clawed back at him with renewed force. The voices of those warning about his ascent echoed, now creeping in on him. What did they say? He asked, each question heavy on his tongue. They say it's a warning, Gabriel. They're coming for you. Realizing he hadn't been dreaming, the walls began to close in, and a familiar sensation of panic washed over him. Was he really being hunted? Who would dare? Suddenly, his phone buzzed again, a dull vibration reverberating like a heartbeat on the desk. He picked it up, the screen flashing an unknown number. Hesitation clawed at the back of his mind, but urgency propelled him to answer. Gabriel Rains, he said, fighting the slight quiver in his voice. Tick, tock. Gabriel, a low voice responded, dripping with malice. You have 2 days left. People play games in your world, but not like this. Not anymore. The call ended abruptly, leaving nothing but silence ringing in his ears. He dropped the phone, fingers trembling as adrenaline surged through him. Gabriel? Olivia's voice broke the spell of terror, her eyes wide with fear. I don't know who or what this is, he admitted, feeling the weight of his empire pressing down on him. But I'm not going to sit here and wait to become a victim. We need to find out what they want. As he turned to organize his thoughts, a shadow flickered on the wall, a silhouette that didn't belong. Whipping around, he could barely register the figure before a flash of pain exploded across his vision. Darkness enveloped him. Time continued to count down, the very world spiraling beyond his control. What awaited him when he finally awoke? The countdown whispered ominously in his ear, the question lingering as he slipped into the void. What awaited in the shadows? Gabriel stirred, dragging himself from the depths of unconsciousness. His head pounded like a drum in a war zone, and every breath felt like he was inhaling shards of glass. He blinked against the dim light that cut through the haze, the outlines of the room jarring against his senses. This wasn't his penthouse. The walls were a dull gray, the furniture sparse and uninviting. Heart racing, he pushed himself off the ground, groaning as he tried to gather his bearings. A dampness seeped into the back of his shirt. He felt clumsy, as if he were still caught in the grip of a dangerous dream. Panic surged. Where was Olivia? Had they taken her too? Just as he collected himself, a muffled noise caught his attention, the faint echo of a door creaking in the distance. He stumbled towards it, each step a battle against the fog in his mind. The door swung open, revealing a narrow corridor, the flickering fluorescent lights overhead buzzing ominously. Olivia? He called out, his voice hoarse. Nothing. Only silence met his ears, the kind that fills a room when something sinister lurks in the shadows. Instinct urged him forward. He needed to understand what was happening. As he crept down the corridor, memories of the gala danced in his mind, images of luxury now tainted by an unbearable dread. The countdown still loomed. He was already behind. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again, and his breath hitched. The sound echoed in the stillness, a siren in the dark. He fished it out from his pocket, praying it hadn't cracked. An unknown number flashed, and dread settled in the pit of his stomach. Against his better judgment, he answered. Hello? Gabriel, the voice felt like ice, smooth yet sharp. Welcome back to reality. You don't have much time. What do you want? Gabriel demanded, fists clenched in fury and fear. Answers. You've lived your life with ease, taking what isn't yours. But what if the tables were turned? The countdown will find you, whether you like it or not. The call ended, leaving him shaken. He pushed on, heart racing, fumbling down the corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly. Doors lined each wall, but one stood ajar at the end. He hesitated, anxiety clawing at him. Images of darkness flashing behind his mind as he opened the door, spilling into a room bathed in flickering light. His stomach lurched as he took in the scene. It was filled with monitors, each displaying live feeds of various locations around his city. Distorted faces, their eyes filled with anguish, flickered in and out of focus. With a sickening realization, his heart sank further. This wasn't just about him. It was about everything he had built. What have I done? He muttered, the weight of his empire crashing down on top of him. And then he saw it, a new countdown, this time not just for him, but for others too. It ticked down, relentless and mocking. A sudden burst of noise jolted him. He turned, eyes wide, as a figure emerged from behind a bank of screens. It was Olivia. Her wrists were bound, and her face was bruised, but her eyes burned with a fierce defiance. Gabriel, she cried, her voice strained. They're going to execute their plan. You have to stop it. His throat tightened as reality hit. Time was slipping away faster than he could grasp. He was running out of options. The lives of many hung in the balance. What do we do? He shouted, desperation spilling from his heart that a shadow passed across her face. We need to find the source of this chaos. There's someone pulling the strings, someone close to you. A chilling realization gripped him. Who could it be? Just then, alarms blared, drowning them in a cacophony of urgency. The countdown clock on the wall began to flash red, and the voice from earlier echoed through the room once more. Tick, tock. Gabriel, time is running out. With no time to waste, Gabriel grabbed Olivia's arm. Let us go. They bolted through the door, but the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. What awaited them around the corner? Was it salvation or terrifying betrayal? They sprinted down the corridor, their footsteps muted by the chaos that reigned behind them. The blaring alarms echoed like thunder in their ears, each resounding note a reminder of the impending doom. Gabriel's heart raced, pushing his legs faster, adrenaline surging as he fought to keep the panic at bay. Where do we go? Olivia gasped, glancing back at the room they'd barely escaped. The flickering monitors still buzzed with the lives of innocents, a vision of horror that made Gabriel's chest tighten. Anywhere but here, he replied, refusing to let fear anchor him down. He steered her left, through an unlit side corridor, shadows pooling in corners like lurking predators. Think. We need a plan, she urged, her eyes wide with determination. We can't just run aimlessly. Gabriel halted, frustration boiling over. What do you expect me to do? Time is slipping through our fingers, and I'm losing everything I focus. Olivia shouted, cutting him off. If there's someone close to you behind this, we need to figure out who it is. You must have enemies, Gabriel. People you've wronged. Her words sliced through the haze of despair. The names of those he crossed danced in his mind, each one a potential foe ready to strike. My investors, the ones who didn't get the deal they wanted. Someone wanted to teach me a lesson, he said, his voice lowering. But not just any lesson, this is personal. As the realization dawned on him, the flashing red lights snaked into his thoughts, until he could almost hear the countdown ticking louder in his ears. Their time was short, and he needed to move. Suddenly, the lights flickered off, swallowing them in darkness. Moments felt like hours as they clutched each other, breathless. The alarms quieted, leaving an eerie silence in their wake, as if something waited in the dark for them to reveal their next move. Gabriel, we have to find a way out of here. This isn't just some kidnapping. They're putting a plan together that will destroy everything. A flicker of hope ignited in his chest, but it was quickly snuffed out by a terrifying thought. What if they're after the others? The people I didn't protect? We can't let that happen. We have to be smarter. There's bound to be a control room somewhere running this nightmare. A flash of fluorescent light returned, illuminating a metal door at the end of the corridor. Gabriel motioned toward it. There. They rushed forward, hearts pounding in sync. As they reached for the handle, the door swung open violently, revealing a tall figure dressed in black. Gabriel's heart sank. Gabriel. The voice was menacing, smooth like the blade of a knife. You shouldn't have come looking. You've already lost. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, someone Gabriel had trusted. His breath caught in his throat. You? He stammered, disbelief choking him. How could you? The figure smiled, a cold grin that shattered any remnants of loyalty. The family empire ends here, Gabriel. You've built your kingdom on the backs of others, and now it's time for the reckoning. Suddenly, alarms blared again, more deafening this time, and the countdown behind them flashed ominously. Run! Olivia shouted, fear slicing through the heavy tension, but it was too late. The figure surged forward, fast and deadly. Gabriel and Olivia stumbled back, hearts racing, but there was nowhere to hide. What had begun as a battle for survival now morphed into a fight against betrayal itself. Would they escape this trap, or had they just walked into their own doom? As the world around them spiraled into chaos, the unrelenting countdown echoed in Gabriel's mind, taunting him with the relentless march of seconds 59:58. Who would survive to see the timer hit zero? Gabriel's instincts kicked in, and he instinctively pulled Olivia away from the threat. They darted back, weaving through the shadows as adrenaline coursed through their veins. The familiar face wasn't just a traitor. It was a symbol of everything he had fought for and lost. Where do we go? Olivia panted, panic rising in her voice again as the alarms screamed deafeningly. Somewhere they can't find us, he shot back, scanning their surroundings. They needed an escape route. There has to be another way out of this corridor. Not far down the passage, a set of emergency stairs loomed, half obscured by darkness. A flickering emergency light outlined the door leading down. There, he yelled, pushing Olivia ahead of him. They sprinted toward the stairwell, but with each step they took, the threat loomed larger behind them. Gabriel could almost feel the hot breath of betrayal nipping at his heels. As they reached the door, Gabriel's hand slammed against the frame, forcing it open. Suddenly, Olivia jolted to a stop, her eyes wide with horror as she faced the top of the stairs. Gabriel! Someone's coming. A shadow appeared at the bottom, a tall figure swathed in black. It wasn't he, the familiar face from before, but more of them soldiers, hired to finish what had been started. We can't fight them, Olivia yelled. We don't have a choice, Gabriel replied, clenching his fists, heart hammering in his chest. There was something indefinably primal about the need to protect her, to shield her from the darkness they now faced together, but time was running out. He felt it, the countdown ticking in rhythm with the pulse in his temples. With a whoosh, Olivia grabbed his hand and pulled him down the stairs, the two of them plunging into darkness. Each step echoed through the narrow space, their breaths echoing louder than they had before, the tension almost unbearable. They descended quickly, every instinct screaming that they were being hunted. Do you think we lost them? Olivia whispered, glancing back over her shoulder, eyes stricken with fear. I don't know, Gabriel began, but was abruptly interrupted by the sound of heavy footsteps getting closer. The air crackled with tension, and a sense of urgency weighed on him like an anvil. They burst through a doorway at the bottom, spilling into an empty basement filled with dust and abandoned machinery. The air was thick, and a chill snaked down Gabriel's spine. We need to, he started to say when the heavy door behind them slammed open. Gabriel. The voice echoed like a nightmare. It was the familiar face, now grinning wider with malevolence. He stepped into the dim light. Fleeing already? I just want to talk. Talk. Gabriel's chest tightened. Wasn't he going to listen? This wasn't just a conversation. It was a trap. Olivia tugged at his sleeve. We can't stay here. Without a moment to lose, Gabriel's eyes darted around the room. Then, his gaze landed on an old maintenance hatch built into the wall. It was small, compact, but if they could fit through Olivia, that hatch. He shouted, pointing. She nodded, her determination flickering back. They dashed towards it, pushing against the sneers of their pursuer. Gabriel could feel the weight of betrayal coiling around him, but he refused to let it consume him. They reached the hatch just in time. Gabriel squeezed in first, pulling Olivia through behind him as the heavy footsteps echoed ominously closer. He could almost feel the fingers of treachery clawing at his back. As they crawled through the darkness, desperation clawed at his insides. They had no plan, no escape, and even worse, their timer was still counting down. What now? Olivia whispered as they finally paused, trapped in a tiny, claustrophobic space. Now we find a way to turn the tables, Gabriel said, newfound resolve slicing through his fear. But as he turned to face her, he saw something in her eyes, a flicker of doubt. Gabriel, what if it's too late? What if they set everything in motion already? The tension rose palpably, and with every beat of the countdown echoing in their minds, Gabriel realized the stakes were higher than ever. Then we make the biggest move of our lives, he replied, determination threading his voice. And just as he finished speaking, a gritty noise erupted from beyond the hatch, shattering the stillness. Something or someone was coming for them. Could they turn this betrayal into strength? Or was it already too late to reclaim the life he loved? The hatch trembled as something heavy slammed into it from the other side. Anxiety flooded Gabriel's veins. They had to act fast. The gritty noise grew louder, turning into desperate banging. Gabriel, what do we do? Olivia's voice was barely above a whisper, but her eyes shimmered with urgency. He scanned their cramped quarters, stomach churning. Time was slipping away. We need to keep moving. This might lead us somewhere safer. Gritting his teeth, Gabriel pressed forward, crawling deeper into the tight space. Olivia followed close behind, her knees scraping against rough metal. Each step into the darkness felt like they were descending into the heart of a predator's den. With one last push, they emerged on the other side. It was another dark room, filled with old crates and broken machines. Gabriel squinted, trying to adjust his eyes to the dimness. His heart raced, heightened by the echo of their unknown pursuers still beyond the hatch. Gabriel. Olivia breathed, her voice shaky. What if they find us? We can't think like that. He crossed the room, looking for another exit. We have to keep moving. The words tumbled out with more bravado than he felt. Suddenly, a beam of light pierced through the gloom, and Gabriel turned to see a flickering fluorescent bulb overhead struggling against the shadows. It illuminated a door on the far wall. Relief washed over him. Maybe it was their way out. But then he heard it, the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps hitting the floor outside. They were getting closer. Gabriel, we don't have time, Olivia urged, her voice rising in urgency. He raced toward the door, pulling it open just as the footsteps grew louder, more pronounced. It was now or never. They bolted through, into another narrow corridor, the air tinged with rust and decay. Where now? Olivia gasped, barely keeping pace as they barreled down the hallway. Anywhere but here. He forced himself to keep moving forward. The sound of their pursuers echoed behind them, a chilling reminder of the reality they faced. They rounded a corner and stumbled upon a massive staircase that spiraled upward. Gabriel's feet pounded against the stairs, adrenaline propelling him forward. Olivia followed close, her breath hitching as they scaled the steps. What happens when we reach the top? She questioned, eyes wide. We'll figure it out. He couldn't let doubt creep in now. Every instinct screamed that their survival depended on this next move. As they reached the top, a faint light blinked ahead another door. Gabriel pushed it open, only to be met with a blinding white light spilling through. Instinct drove him into the room, pulling Olivia along. They emerged onto a rooftop, the sprawling city beneath them shrouded in twilight. A surge of hope coursed through him, but it was quickly tempered by fear. High walls flanked each side of the rooftop, but there was no way down. Gabriel, they're coming, Olivia shouted, panic rising again in her voice. He turned on his heel, scrambling to look for any potential escape. His eyes darted around, desperate for a sign. They're on the other side. He pointed to a metal fire escape that jutted out from the building's edge. With newfound determination, they sprinted toward it. The cold wind whipped around them, elevating the tension as the sound of men shouting filled the air. The familiar faces' mocking laughter echoed in his mind, a reminder of how betrayal felt sharp, bitter, and deadly. Just as they reached for the escape ladder, the rooftop door swung open. The soldiers poured out, eyes searching. Gabriel and Olivia froze. They were momentarily shrouded in shadows, the soldiers unaware of their presence. But it wouldn't last. What now? Olivia whispered, her voice tight with fear. Gabriel's mind raced. We need to create a diversion. He glanced around, spotting an old barrel, anything to give them a chance. On 3, we push that off the edge and create chaos. She met his eyes, a flicker of trust igniting between them, but doubt still danced across her face. Will it work? No choice. He swallowed hard, courage battling against devastation. 1, 2, 3. Together they shoved the barrel, sending it tumbling off the roof, crashing into the alley below with an explosive sound that reverberated through the night. The soldiers turned in shock, a perfect moment of distraction. Go, Gabriel shouted. They dashed toward the fire escape, hearts pounding, desperate to escape the grip of fate that had driven them into this chaos. But as they clambered down, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against something far worse than just the soldiers behind them. Something was closing in, something darker, shadowed by betrayal and vengeance. As they reached the ground, the night loomed ahead, an empty canvas of uncertainty. Where do we go now? Olivia asked, breaths ragged. Wherever it takes us to survive, Gabriel replied. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. But in that moment, as they stepped into the abyss of the unknown, he realized the worst was yet to come. Just then, a distant sound grumbled across the streets, a low growl, unmistakable and fierce. Gabriel's heart dropped. They weren't just running from soldiers. Something hunted them. Something much worse. What had they unwittingly become a part of? Gabriel felt a chill crawl down his spine as the growl echoed, wrapping itself around the darkness of the alley. A sudden sense of dread washed over him, heavier than the uncertainty they had just left behind. "Did you hear that?" Olivia's whisper cut through the night air, her eyes wide with panic. Before he could answer, a shadow darted across the alley, moving faster than he could comprehend. It was a blur, something primal and raw, its eyes reflecting the dim light like those of a ravenous beast. "Run!" Gabriel shouted, grabbing her hand tightly. They stumbled into motion, hearts pounding in unison as they dashed away from the noise, leaving uncertainty and fear trailing behind them. Each step felt like a countdown. The growl was a hunter's growl, as if whatever lurked in the dark was aware of every frantic heartbeat. They turned sharply onto another street, the exhaust-laden air wrapping tightly around them. The flashes of streetlights illuminated their surroundings, but every shadow seemed to stretch and writhe, heights making the buildings appear like somber giants. Gabriel's senses were heightened, a low hum of primal instinct guiding his every move. "Where do we go?" Olivia gasped, desperation punctuating her every word. Gabriel scanned the streets, his mind racing. "We need to find somewhere to hide, somewhere they can't reach us," he replied, a flicker of hope straining against the weight of fear. That growl, it sounded almost familiar. He set his jaw, the implication of her words settling like ice in his stomach. What if they weren't just dealing with human threats? He had seen and heard whispers about experiments, about something unnatural lurking in the city, something people weren't supposed to know about. "Come on," he urged, pulling her toward a nearby parking garage. The heavy metal door creaked ominously as they slipped inside, plunging them into a world wrapped in darkness, punctuated only by the flickering fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry insects. Inside, the smell of oil and dust hung thick. Gabriel's eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light suffocating the space. Rows of abandoned cars lined the walls, shadows pooling around them like murky water. "Do you think we lost them?" Olivia whispered, choking back the urgency in her voice. Gabriel shook his head, struggling to catch his breath. "I can't be sure. We can't take that chance." Suddenly, a sound shattered the silence. Clanging metal reverberated through the garage, echoing like a thunderclap. Both turned toward the noise, hearts racing. "Hide," he hissed, searching for a place. They darted behind a rusted sedan, pressing their backs against its cold, metal frame. He could hear the footsteps of soldiers drum against the concrete, ringing like a death knell. The soldiers were searching, barking orders to one another. Gabriel clenched his fists, listening intently for any incriminating sound that could give their position away. They couldn't have gotten far. "Keep looking." A voice sliced through the despair. The growls crept closer, and Gabriel felt something shift in the air. The soldiers were not the only threat. The thing that hunted them was close, closer than they realized. Minutes felt like hours as they held still, breaths contained. Time stretched, every second pulling tighter around them as tension mounted. Then a crash echoed from another corner of the garage, followed by a shriek that sent chills racing down their spines. The soldiers shouted in confusion, and Gabriel used the moment of distraction to peek around the car. What he saw made his blood run cold. A hulking creature emerged from the shadows, its eyes gleaming like molten gold, claws raking against concrete, approaching the soldiers. The way blocked. "We need to retreat," one of them yelled, terror breaking through the facade of control. Gabriel turned to Olivia, their eyes locking in silent agreement. If they were going to survive this night, they had to act now. Just as they rose to move, a deafening roar echoed through the garage, a sound that shook the very foundations. The creature lunged forward, a whirlwind of fury and hunger. "Go, now," he screamed, shoving Olivia toward the exit they had come in from. But there was no way out, not without exposing themselves. Time was rapidly running out. "Gabriel, we can't just hide here," Olivia urged, her eyes wide with fear. He hesitated, his heart pounding. What could they do? The growl deepened, coming from the throat of a monster that had no intention of letting them escape. They needed a plan, a distraction, something. A sudden thought hit him like a lightning bolt. What if they used the chaos to their advantage? "Stay back," he warned Olivia, gathering a handful of loose debris from the ground. Turning toward where the soldiers were now frantically firing their weapons at the creature, he hurled the debris as far as he could, sending it crashing against a far wall. Go. Now. He pushed Olivia ahead of him, forcing them both back into the darkness. But as they dashed toward the barely visible light, a haunting growl followed them, and they could feel the monster's breath on their necks. In that moment, Gabriel realized the depths of their peril. They were trapped, not only between the soldiers and the creature, but in a war they hadn't chosen, surrounded by danger lurking at every corner. Would they make it out alive? Or had the night folded into the folds of eternity, swallowing them whole? As they took one frantic step after another, the echoes of chaos melded into a rallying cry. Somewhere out there, the truth lay buried, waiting to unravel. But would they survive long enough to discover it? Gabriel felt every heartbeat hammer in his chest as they burst into a narrow corridor. The flickering lights buzzed overhead, casting awkward shadows that danced like phantoms. Behind them, the creature roared again, a sound that seemed to reverberate within the very bones of the building. "Don't stop," he urged, pulling Olivia forward as they sprinted down the hallway. The cold air felt sharp against their skin, and Gabriel's mind raced, searching desperately for an escape route. "Where were we going?" Olivia gasped. Panic clung to her voice like heavy fog. "Anywhere but here," he shouted, barely glancing back as the echoes of chaos faded into the distance. But the growl remained, haunting persistent. They emerged into a large, open area cluttered with abandoned machinery. Old conveyor belts sat like sleeping giants, and the oppressive silence wrapped around them, thickening the air. "Look," Olivia pointed toward a set of stairs leading to a raised platform. "Up there." Gabriel joined her, their feet pounding against the rusted metal as they made their way up. "We might be able to see what is happening from the top." They reached the platform, peeking over the edge. Below, they spotted the soldiers, disarrayed and frantic, still trying to regroup. But the creature, with its golden eyes glowing in the dim light, had turned the hunters into the hunted. It lunged at one of the soldiers, snapping its jagged teeth just as he managed to dive behind the cover of a wrecked machine. "Oh my God," Olivia whispered, fear suffocating her words. Gabriel swallowed hard, trying to process the chaos. The soldiers were yelling into their radios, frantic calls overlapping, but there was no sign of retreat. The creature's growl pierced the air, an uncanny blend of hunger and fury. "What do we do?" Olivia pressed, her hands trembling. Gabriel surveyed the platform. There were thick cables hanging down and a massive control panel that looked like it hadn't been touched in years. An idea sparked in his mind. "We can create a distraction. Get their attention away from us." He hurried to the control panel, dusting off the grime with shaking hands. "I think I can override the system, maybe get the machinery to start. It'll make noise. It might just pull them away." Olivia nodded, determination flaring in her eyes despite the fear. "Just do it. We can't just wait for that thing to find us." As he fumbled with the switches, a static-filled hum filled the room, and the lights flickered again. He toggled the buttons, praying the technology would still work. "Come on," he muttered under his breath, desperately searching for the right lever. Suddenly, a grinding sound crescendoed, and machinery roared to life below. "Look," Olivia shouted, pointing. The creature switched its focus, its primal instincts astir as it swiveled to face the thundering noise. Gabriel grinned, adrenaline surging, but the sound quickly drowned out by the creature's furious growl. "Run, Gabriel! It sees us!" Before he could respond, the ground shook beneath their feet. The creature had dashed toward the platform, its powerful legs propelling it forward faster than he could comprehend. "Jump!" he yelled, grabbing Olivia's arm. They sprinted down the platform just as the creature descended upon them, its claws scraping against metal with a bone-chilling screech. They hadn't made it far before a sharp pain shot through Gabriel's leg. A metal shard had punctured his skin as he stumbled against a jagged beam on the floor. "Gabriel!" he grimaced, catching Olivia's panicked gaze. "I'm fine, just go." "No," she insisted, gripping his arm. "We'll get out together." Just then, the monster lunged, narrowly missing them. They had no choice, they had to keep moving. "Help me," he grunted, forcing himself forward, leaning heavily against Olivia for support as they made their way through the spinning chaos. The sound of gunfire erupted again, the soldiers attempting to hold their ground, but every explosion of noise brought more chaos, drawing the creature's wild attention. Gabriel gasped, feeling his strength waning. I can't keep this up. Just a little further. Together, they pressed on, digging deeper into the shadows of the garage, but the creature was relentless. It tracked their scent, each growl resonating like a death knell in the overwhelming noise. Suddenly, a door appeared at the end of the corridor, slightly ajar, light spilling out like an invitation. There. Olivia pointed, urgency lacing her voice. Gabriel pushed through the pain, his mind swirling with the agonizing reality that their escape was clawing farther away with each passing second. Just as they reached for the door, a blast echoed a burst of pain and light, followed by a chilling quiet. Time froze. They both turned back just in time to see the creature's eyes lock onto them, a final growl rumbling deep from within. Gabriel! Olivia gasped, fear washing over her face, echoing in the very core of his being. Don't look back, he urged, taking her hands, ready to fight back against the encroaching dread. As they burst through the door into blinding daylight, Gabriel understood one undeniable truth, that the battle was far from over. What awaited them on the other side? Was it the safety they so desperately sought, or was it merely another layer of danger waiting to unfold? In that moment, they had crossed a threshold, but now they must face the true horror awaiting them in the light of day. Blinding sunlight hit Gabriel and Olivia like a slap to the face, shocking them back to reality. They stumbled into a chaos of open air, surrounded by the remnants of the world they once knew. The sprawling factory yard lay in ruins, barrels overturned, debris scattered. Their minds barely processed the scene, still reeling from the adrenaline of escape. Where do we go? Olivia's voice trembled, urgency lacing every word as she scanned the area. There was no clear path, only the sound of distant shouts and the ominous growl growing closer. Over there, Gabriel shouted, pointing toward a cluster of vehicles parked haphazardly along the perimeter. We need to get to those trucks. They might have keys. They sprinted across the yard, the ground beneath them rattling as gunfire erupted in the distance. Every step felt like a countdown, each second pulling them closer to the clawing danger that lurked behind. Gabriel's breath came in ragged gasps, pain shooting through his leg with each stride. Gabriel, you're bleeding, Olivia cried, glancing down as she noticed dark stains spreading on his pant leg. It's fine, he grunted, pushing himself harder. We just need to find a way out. The growl of the creature echoed ominously through the yard, a ravenous force ending the momentary reprieve they'd barely seized. A glance back confirmed their worst fears. The creature had stalked them into the daylight, its golden eyes narrowing with savage intent, ready to devour. Just ahead, two soldiers stood beside a large truck, desperately trying to get inside. We have to help them, Olivia urged, instinctively heading toward them. Olivia, no. Stay focused, Gabriel cried, but the sight of hope ignited a fire in her heart. The soldiers yelled back, panic-stricken. We need cover. It's coming. Before he could stop her, Olivia dashed toward the truck, yelling for the soldiers to get in. Gabriel cursed under his breath, the pain in his leg flaring as he limped behind her. The creature advanced, long strides closing the distance unnervingly fast. Get in now, one soldier shouted, glancing back with wild eyes. As they reached the truck, bullets erupted from the soldiers' rifles, but they were desperate shots aimed at a beast too quick, too agile. The creature howled and lunged, swiping its claws through the air, just missing Gabriel as he dove inside the back of the truck. Olivia followed him in, slamming the door behind them. The soldiers quickly secured themselves inside the driver's cabin. Start it, Gabriel yelled, heart pounding against his ribs. They needed to move. The tension in the air was electric. Every second felt like a lifetime. The engine sputtered, then roared to life with a deafening roar that rang through the chaos. But as the soldiers floored the pedal, the truck jolted violently, the sound of metal screeching. Something wasn't right. Go, Olivia urged, but as they shifted into gear, another thunderous growl echoed outside, shaking the vehicle. Gabriel glanced toward the window. The creature was mounted by the side, gnashing its teeth, clawed hands raking the metallic frame. It's trying to get in. He felt a cold sweat trickle down his spine. Their escape was an illusion, a mirage evaporating in front of their desperate eyes. Hold on, one of the soldiers shouted, slamming into reverse. The tires screeched, and the truck jerked back, almost losing control. But before they could break free, the beast let out a screeching roar, its claws scraping against the window, leaving deep gouges. The driver swung the truck side to side, combating the intense pressure from the creature. "We need to get out of here. We can't hold it off. We need a plan," Gabriel shouted, his mind racing. "There's a gate at the far end of the yard. If we can make it past it, we can escape," one soldier replied, hands gripping the wheel tightly. With every inch gained, the creature howled louder, a primal sound filled with rage and hunger. And then, in a terrifying instant, the sound of shattering glass fragmented their resolve. A claw penetrated the window, shards flying everywhere. "Get down," Gabriel yelled, pulling Olivia to the floor as chaos erupted around them. As the creature lunged, all they could do was brace for impact. The stark reality washing over them: survival was never guaranteed. Would they escape the beast's clutches, or was this the end of their fight for freedom? The truck lurched violently again, and they could only hope that whatever awaited them on the other side of the gate was more than just a dead end. Gabriel clutched Olivia tightly, the fear resonating like a drum in their chests. The acrid smell of sweat and gasoline filled the vehicle, mixing with the bitter scent of desperation. As the creature's growls echoed around them, the soldier in the front leaned into the wheel, sweat drenching his brow. "We've got to break through," he shouted, eyes darting to the rearview mirror, where the beast was clawing relentlessly at the truck. "Drive, drive," Gabriel urged, feeling the weight of every second pressing in. The more they waited, the less chance they had. With a sudden jerk, the truck rocketed forward, tires spinning in a cloud of dust and gravel. Gabriel barely registered the scene outside: soldiers scrambling, panic erupting in the chaos, until they barreled straight for the gate. As they headed toward the heavy metal barrier, the ground shook beneath them. A final, spine-tingling roar erupted from the beast. It was a last-ditch effort to reclaim its prey, the claws now shredding the frame of the truck, startling Gabriel into action. "Keep going. Don't let up," he screamed, adrenaline pouring through him like lava. Olivia gripped his arm, her nails digging into the fabric of his shirt as they neared the gate. Gabriel turned to her, determination surging. "When we get through, we run." Ever so slowly, the gate began to swing open, the rusty hinges groaning like a funeral dirge. The truck smashed through, metal shrieking in protest. And without a moment's hesitation, Gabriel and Olivia leapt out the other side, sprinting into the open air. The world felt overwhelmingly bright, yet there was no time to celebrate their escape. Gabriel shielded his eyes against the sun, scanning the wide expanse of the lot as he stumbled to regain his footing. Behind him, he could hear the terrible sound of the creature clawing its way through the remains of the truck. It wasn't done yet. They had to move. "Follow me," he shouted, pulling Olivia into a nearby alley, the shadows swallowing them whole. They dashed past crates and debris, hearts pounding loudly, echoing against the brick walls. "We can't stop now." Each step felt as if the ground was poised to swallow them whole, the city's very fabric starting to fray beneath the weight of their escape. Suddenly, Olivia stopped cold, eyes wide with shock. "Gabriel," she gasped. He turned to see her pointing at the end of the alley. There stood a group of people in a black van waiting, doors wide open, eyes wide with concern. "Get in. Come on," the driver shouted, urgency bursting from his voice as he peered over his shoulder, watching the chaos that threatened to engulf them. Gabriel seized Olivia's hand, pulling her forward as they raced toward the van. "We're almost there. Just a little further." They lunged for the open door, tumbling inside, and the driver slammed the door shut, heart pounding with relief. "Go. Get us out of here," Gabriel yelled, realizing there was no time left to hide from the storm behind them. The driver shot forward, tires screeching against the pavement as they burst out of the alley, leaving chaos and terror behind. As they sped down the road, Gabriel glanced back, heart sinking. The creature stood, towering in the street, silhouetted against the smog-laden sky, and with an unsettling howl, it disappeared into the shroud of darkness. Olivia leaned back against the seat, breaths coming in ragged gasps. Relief washed through her, tempered with the weight of survival. A moment of stillness settled in the van, frozen amidst the cacophony of panic that surrounded them. What was that?" she asked breathlessly, eyes filled with bewilderment. Gabriel chuckled weakly, the sound like a fragile beat against the nightfall. Not what we expected, huh? The driver turned to them, eyes serious yet understanding. Whatever that was, we'll need more than luck to handle it. We have to regroup, figure out what this actually means. Gabriel glanced at Olivia, her determination shining through the fear, and he nodded, a solemn vow to fight whatever shadows lie ahead. Their city was no longer just a stage for extravagant life. It was a battleground, a realm where darkness festered in unexpected forms. We won, let it win, Gabriel declared, his grip tightening around Olivia's hand. Not today. As the van rolled through the streets, a sense of reckoning settled firmly within him. They were alive, against all odds, and this was just the beginning. The countdown of their lives had met a new score, one filled with fights to regain not just their lives, but their rightful place in a city turned upside down. And as they drove deeper into the heart of the city, Gabriel could almost hear the echoes of the countdown, be it for redemption or reckoning. It was up to them to rewrite what was next. Now it's your turn to be part of this journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of our next exclusive stories that dive even deeper into this chaos. Smash that like button for us, help feed the algorithm, and show your support. And don't wait even one more second, flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the ending. Lastly, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion too. Your actions matter.